Hey y'all, it's Big James. I'd say life in the dumps, but we've not been in the truck for a while. And it's been a while since I made a video, and I kind of wanted to touch on this subject about religion and like the freedom of, the freedom from, and the United States and other countries and how religion plays a role. And see, in the United States, we have a freedom of religion, which I feel also includes a freedom from. You don't have to be religious to live here. But if you are a religious person, you can live here and not be persecuted. Now, with that said, the reason I pushed the record button today is I got into a little argument with someone about Israel. And, you hear that same old rhetoric, the Palestinians are terrorists, the PLO, the Israeli people, the Jewish people need their own country. And the last 70 years, people don't realize is Israel is only 70 years old. And before there was Israel, there was a country called Palestine. Even the United States recognized it. Many countries around the world, almost every country around the world, recognized Palestine as a country. They had their own flag. And with that being said, starting around 1890, a lot of European Jews, or a lot of European people of Jewish faith, started moving to Palestine. And in that time, the Palestinian people were okay with that. It was a crossroads in the Middle East. A lot of people live there. They just ask that you respect the laws and all that. And over time, from like the 1890s to the 1930s, 40s, that Jewish population in that region just grew and grew and grew and grew. And World War II broke out. And we all know what happened there. And that was terrible. But after that, the League of Nations. We had this League of Nations before the United Nations, but the League of Nations, fronted by the United States, was like, leader in that. Kind of got behind this uprising of the Jewish people against the Palestinian government. Because, in that 40, 50-year span of immigration to Israel, then after the war, a lot of Jews from the war wanted to go there as well. You had that's when the war and stuff started breaking out. And they removed Palestinians from their homes and from their businesses, and they pushed them off into the West Bank, Gaza Strip. I want to say there's a third. And I didn't go sit down and look at my notes on this. I just kind of going off the top of my head. I want to say there's like a flotilla involved somewhere in there. People, anyways. That's when, and then around that time, Egypt and there was another country in there. They attacked Israel over that, and Israel grabbed even more land from those countries, but also pushed the Palestinian people off into their own place. And the Gaza Strip and the West Bank have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller as the last 70 years, how the Jewish government has gone in and tore down schools, tore down hospitals in these areas, took the land and built housing for Jewish people that were moving to Israel. I mean, Israel is the only country in the world where you can say, well, I'm Jewish, I'm of Jewish faith, and I want to move to Israel. And Israel's like, come on over. And, name another country that says, hey, if you're this religion, you can live here. Israel's like the only one, and the United States backs that. And you got to think, 70 years of, being displaced from your land, your property being taken from you, forced into essentially an open air prison because it is very hard to escape the West Bank or the Gaza Strip. And I don't even think the Gaza Strip's there anymore. It's just the West Bank at this point. And if you want to leave there, like move away, it's really hard. Those people are very resilient, though. And yeah, the PLO, people like our government, Israeli, they're terrorists. Man, it depends on what side of that line you stand on, because those people look at them as freedom fighters. You came in, you took their land, you killed their people, you took their homes, you put them over here, and then they rise up and fight against you, and they're terrorists? So it's like, I have this knowledge of what happened over there, the history, what's going on. And then when someone's like, I support Israel, I'm like, fuck that. I don't want my tax dollars to go. Why? I said, Israel, the Israeli government's more of a terrorist than the PLO, the Palestinians, Oh, well, they're their only form of democracy in the Middle East. I could give a shit less. We live here, not in the Middle East. It's not our business. All it is a foothold for Americans, for the American government, that we give Israel money every year. I mean, hordes of money. We give it to Israel, and then they turn around and take that money, our tax dollars that they gave to Israel, they turn around and use that to buy weapons of war from American from these American industries that, like for planes and defense contractors, So we give them money for them to turn around and give it to American defense contractors. Now, now that just opens up a whole nother conversation right there about the American military industrial complex and how money is just filtered into their pockets through whichever way, We'll give you this money, like the Saudi Arabian shit, the United Emirates. But anyways, what I want to say is I don't hate Jewish people. I have nothing against the Jewish faith. I think they're beautiful people, culturally rich. I've lived in cities in the United States, and Chicago being one of them. It's just, I going from a city to a small community, it feels weird, like not having that culture around you. But I've been around Muslim, I've been around, Jewish people, and I've been, if you get kind to me, I'm going to be kind to you. If you feed me, I'm going to love you. And Jewish people love to feed people. So, anywho, I just don't support Israel or the country of, for a handful of reasons, how it became to be, how the oppression of the people that already live there. What's going on now where these snipers are shooting kids and people in wheelchairs because they're throwing rocks. So you blow their head off? Come on. And this whole, Biden's putting the United States back into this Human Rights Council or whatever, and they say this council hates Israel. What is this love affair with the United States and Israel? I don't get it. It's we've got to defend and love Israel. It's blah blah blah. It's the land for the Jews. And you see that rhetoric popping up here the last couple of years, especially with a lot of those people, a lot of Trump supporters, a lot of people that were involved in that little insurrection thing, thoroughly believe this is a Christian country. You have a freedom to be whatever kind of Christian you want to be, but outside of that, you can't be anything else. where does it say in the Constitution that, in God we trust? It doesn't say in a Christian God we trust. It just says in God we trust. What God? Who's God? Oh, well, the only God. Well, the founders were Christians, so that's the God that... I don't think you get it. And this nationalism, the hype, and this is a Christian nation. I was like, man, that is just, it's all a big mind fuck. Anyways, that's what was spinning around in my head, kids. Watching the neighbor boy let his dog shit in the yard and not pick it up. So I'm going to let you all go. All you mother truckers, drive safe. We'll talk at you later.